Welcome to Learning Python with Turtle, Lesson 7. In this video, we're going to further explore how to incorporate that loop variable as part of our designs and see some interesting designs we can create with that loop variable. So let's get to it. So from previous videos, we saw that the for loop will allow us to repeat instructions. We also saw that this loop variable that's part of the for loop actually has values, and those values depend on what's in this section. Now for the range of 3, we will get the values of 0, 1, 2. We also explored how we can take that value and multiply it to get a bigger value. So instead of getting 0, 1, 2, we could get 0, 10, 20. Now going down to these last two instructions, the forward and the left. So we go forward 100, turn left 120, then forward 100, and then repeat that 3 times. Again, that was the result of the range 3. And that allowed us to produce a triangle. But what if we now incorporated that loop variable as part of the times? So these sides are not going to be the same anymore. So the first forward will be a size of 0, essentially not going anywhere. And then it's going to turn 120, go 10, turn 120, and then go 20. Let's see that. Now, it might not be apparent from just this little bit, but notice these lines are not the same. Let's increase this a little bit more. Let's increase this to, let's say, 20. So we can see here, it looks like it's trying to draw a triangle, but it doesn't actually draw a triangle because it never closes the shape off. But it kind of feels like a triangle. And we can see here from the numbers that each length of this quote-unquote triangle is a little bit bigger. So from looking at this, we can see that if we were to increase this loop by one more, the next length would be 200, and then so on. Let me go ahead and pop this up a little bit more. And again, you can have a lot of fun with this. Now, usually when you start creating designs like this, you might want to incorporate like a bob.speed just to speed it up a little bit, or else you might be here all day. Now, we get a triangle because we're rotating by 120. What if we did 90? Hopefully you recall that a turn of 90 now produces a square type shape. Now you'll notice that the design looks a lot more spread out than the triangle. Well, we can modify that. Again, that's how much we want it to go forward each time. So if we wanted to go forward a little bit less, we could simply change the number. Let's change it to 6. And that way we'll get a tighter design. Again, this is what it means to incorporate the loop variable to, use those values of the loop variable and then modify how it's being used. So let's not forget, the loop variable starts at 0 and goes to 1 less than your range, but how you use that number can change. So we're not multiplying by 10 anymore, we're multiplying by 6. And now we get this design. I want to explore something else we can do with this. And for that, I'm going to go back to our triangle, which I believe we had a 10 here and a 10 here, and then a 120 here. All right, so I just want to get back to the original design. That takes a little bit. Probably not appropriate for a video, so I'm going to reduce it down to, let's say 30, and let's throw in the bob.speed as well. Hopefully the 10 doesn't make it too fast. All right, so we get a nice triangle because of the 120. But what if we change this to 21? Actually, because I want you to be able to see it, so I'm going to take this out for a second. So right now we get that nice triangle here because of the fact that we get the 120. But what if we rotate it by 121? So it's going to rotate a little bit more. You can start seeing the effect right now. The triangles are starting to turn. But you're going to get an additional kind of like optical illusion where you're going to start seeing these little spirals kind of come up in the design. So for this, I will take this out now, and let's say a 60. And you can see how much quicker the, the bob.speed makes the design drawn. So again, a slightly different effect. It is a spiral, but because it starts to rotate, some of these lines start to overlap, creating this interesting, not quite sure what you would call this, but it is an interesting design. Now, there is something else we can do here, kind of as a different design. So we've been modifying the forward by the loop variable. What happens if we've modified the times variable by the loop variable? So let's make this a constant here. Let's say a constant of, I don't know, let's say 10. And now let's do the times 10 here. And for this one, actually for this one, I think we will have to leave it as 100 because we're gonna have to run it a couple times in order to get the effect. So I want you to think about what's happening here. Each time the line's going to turn a little bit more. So this isn't going to be a triangle. This is not going to be a square. This is going to be some weird design. But here's the interesting effect. Notice how it goes back onto itself. And then it goes back up again. So again, this was not something I would have expected. This was actually introduced to me by a student because they were exploring. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And let's see what happens when we do, let's say 3. I think 3 will give us obviously a bigger circle, a bigger spiral on that one. But let's see what happens when it comes back around. I guess we're gonna have to run it a little bit more. And as students usually like to do, they'll put a huge number. And at this point, I will take advantage of the speed 0. All right, so it gives us the same design. I know I saw students do something else where it gave us some really funky design down here. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe it needs to be a larger number. Let's say 47. Oh, wasn't even what I was thinking, but again, so you can see here where you could definitely explore some interesting designs by just simply trial and error. And I'm not going to wait for this to finish. You're more than welcome to duplicate the code and try it on your own. What I want to do is explore yet another place where we can incorporate the loop variable, which is with our width. So I'm going to say a bob.width of, I'm going to keep it constant for right now. Let's say 5. And instead of this interesting design with the loop variable as part of the left, we're going to keep this at, let's say, 4. So similarly, this is not going to produce a polygon, but hopefully you can kind of appreciate it's going to produce some kind of a curve. And that curve has a constant width of 5. Well, what if we incorporated that loop variable, the times, in here? Well, that means that the first line will have a width of 0, and then with each line, it's going to get a little thicker. So let's see that. All right, so we can see here, it kind of almost looks like a brush stroke, or to me, what it feels like is a comet. And we can kind of increase this more. And we can actually go around in a full circle. And let's rotate this a little bit more so the circle gets tighter. And actually, let's do this. Let's do a left of 10 and a 36 here. All right, so we can see here, it kind of completes a full circle. And if you're curious as to how I figured out that it needed to be 36, 36 rotated 10 each time, that's 360, that's a circle. All right, what was I going to say? All right, so but notice by the very end, the line gets kind of thick. Perhaps you don't want the line as thick by the time you get to the end of the design. Well, just like we've done before, where we've modified the loop variable by some number, by multiplying or adding to it, we can also divide by it. So in the way it was before, our last line that was drawn had a width of 36, pretty thick. But what if we simply divided it by 2? And I'm going to put the divide by 2 here. So instead of the last line being 36, looking at our loop variable, our last line reaches a width of 17.5. And you can see here, it's not as thick. And we can actually increase this more. We can say 4. And again, it's increased less. So, oops, forgot to do here. So what I want you to see with this example is that you can incorporate the loop variable pretty much any place you can use a number with the turtle. By using multiplication and division, you could modify that number to your needs. Actually, now that I look at it, it kind of did look nicer with the with the thickness at the end. Again, this is up to you. I mean, if you kind of think about it, you can almost do like another design that now goes this way by doing a right afterwards. Again, the possibilities are endless as to what you can do with this. So let's go back to our presentation and review what we've done. So in this video, we saw how we can incorporate the loop variable in various places where the Python turtle commands can take a number. In doing so, we were able to create a spiral design of many different shapes and sizes. And we also saw that we can change the width of the line to also create an interesting effect in our design. So hopefully you're excited about using loop variable as part of your design, and enjoy.